Okay, it's Tuesday, September 20th. This is a SPY recap end of the day video. And first of all, let's just look at what happened today. You can see here it ended up being a slightly small bar. Took out the lows of the previous day. We closed slightly red. And if you look at it in terms of the last 3 days, we've pretty much gone nowhere. We had a little gap down on Friday that didn't follow through to the downside. We tried to go up a little bit yesterday. It didn't really follow through. Today we tried to go down. It didn't follow through. And of course, none of this should be surprising given that we have the Federal Reserve announcement tomorrow and everyone's waiting for that. And we've kind of talked about that. But in terms of this price action itself, it's also not surprising because after Friday, for example, when it gapped down and we kind of closed green, well, it was going to tough, even though the trend's down and you had a weekly chart that's red and looking to go lower, we did have a bit of exhaustion here for 5 days in a row down, to really continue strongly lower. Then when you head up yesterday, I came into this morning showing how we had another conflicting kind of scenario in play where, on the daily chart, we were kind of expecting us to go up a little bit, but the overnight action, which is these two blue bars or the pre-market action, was opening near the lows of that day. And I also had the weekly bar, which I still think was going to, test these lows. So you had the weekly chart kind of thinking a little down at some point before you potentially reverse. And the daily chart, at least on this close, looked to be maybe heading up to these targets. And then but you started out kind of near the low end of the pre-market range to not get that follow through. So, and again, it's not surprising, given all these conflicting scenarios. That's the thing with when you're looking at multiple time frames and looking at various, expectations for each time frame. You have the monthly chart, which we've discussed, is still looking to go down to the bottom of that month by the end of the month. When you have all these various time frames, sometimes it doesn't align clearly, and that's why you have to realize when some of the best times to trade and other times where you're going to have conflict. And when you have conflict, what's happening in conflict a lot of times is you get the action you see here, the price discovery. You're taking out previous highs, you're trapping certain players, and it's going up and down and up and down, and in the end you end up nowhere over 3 days, but there's tons of volatility in play, and that's why you get like down moves. That's why I try to then gauge how that all fits in with how opening price starts the day and what kind of tone you set and where some of the key levels are. So today, for example, you started down, but here's the pre-market range, these two blue lines, and you started down. So you definitely, at least from this first bar, had the opportunity to try a short, with all that conflict in play. So once you saw it not following through for 4 bars, well, you have to realize the environment you're in, and that's why I put out a video saying time to break even. That's fine. Then it went up, and that looks great, but you're nowhere near really taking out the intraday high. I mean, you took out the intraday high, but you're nowhere near kind of, taking out this yesterday's high to get strong follow through. Plus, you have big news tomorrow. Plus, you have a weekly trend that still hasn't reached its down target. So you can't get too excited about going, to the long side here, unless somehow you would have had a strong breakthrough that this was the bar to trap everyone, the intraday high, where anyone who went short in the morning, they would have put stops up here, and that you can see they got stopped out and got trapped. And anyway, then as the market, didn't follow through and went lower, I put out a video where I bought put options here, expecting it to move lower, and we got that follow through. And look what happened. We went right to the intraday low. We finally took out that low of the week, which is, we did hit that, and then we reversed strongly to the upside. So again, not surprising at all that given the fact that we have news tomorrow, that you have the potential for a reversal after broadening out lower here on this 3 bar and then making a little 2 down. And given the fact, on the daily chart here, we're not going anywhere yet. And this is an area to target, but you have to see if you get immediate follow through or not. And once you don't, it pops up, then you're still in this price discovery area. So bottom line was today, just to go over it, the only 2 trades that made any sense to me was a short here early in the morning that you can see weren't following through and failed. And then I explained in a prior video, if you want to look at it, why I went short here and to take out those lows. And, I was able to take like a base hit trade on that. I bought those puts at 870. I got out when they hit the lows at 10. And as it turns out, it's right back to where it started from at the yellow line. So now we come into tomorrow. What are we expecting? I still think there's a lot of conflict in play in terms of, you have sort of a hammer bar forming here heading to the upside possibly, like on a 2 down failure. If that happens, I can get into this more tomorrow morning, I guess, but I guess I'll introduce it here. The weekly bar has now been taken out to the downside. So you can get a nice reversal here. It might happen by the end of the week. Where you end up with a kind of a hammer bar or a green bar, and then you can really look into next week on that reversal up to take out these highs. For now, you're not there yet. We have 3 days to go. It's tough to say how this weekly bar is going to close, but there's definitely now the potential for a failure down and a 2 up. And as long as we stay green here on the week, which is the open of Monday, you got to kind of play the bias to the upside. Also, if we get an up signal tomorrow, where we'll go above yesterday, a 2 up bar going up above the high here, which is very possible, I would say. We'll see what the pre-market action is. Then we're only targeting up here. Yesterday, if we continued higher, we would have been targeting up here. So all we have to do at this point is now reach this area before we have a potential reversal back down in line with these monthly lows. So it's very tough to say, if we do get an up move, let's expect to take this out, but let's be careful to see, do we fail there or do we continue up to these targets? Which at that point, if we really continue up past here, and you'll sense it by intraday price action, whatever that is. If we hit this point, then you have the 2 up, the 2 down failure on the weekly chart. We reach the midpoint of that weekly bar. So once we take out the lows of that bar and go all the way to the midpoint, then we're projecting, by then it'll be closer to the end of the week, maybe, if it doesn't happen all tomorrow, then you're projecting up here, and this could be a big major reversal. So it all depends as we head up, if we could take out this target, whether that fails and we get the move back down in line with the 3-2 continuation lower, in line with the monthly chart going down, or is this move up going to get through here, not fail, reach these targets, and then at that point you have the potential 2 up, a 50% rule, the 2 down failure, on the 50, moving 50% to the prior bar, and then having a projection all the way up to the high. And again, we'll see if we have time in the week to get up there. But those are some things to really watch for. It's going to be tricky, and all that is based on Fed announcements that I guess comes out more in the afternoon. So in the morning, you can't really trust any move that's going to happen because I don't know how the market's going to react to it. So long video here, but again, not surprising to get all this uncertainty and confusion. Yesterday, there was one trade to the long side, really 2. I discussed it yesterday with that first move. I didn't really trust it, but it was a trade. The secondary move was a definite trade that did work up to the pre-highs. And today, at least price action wise, within all this mess here, there was a down trade to start that you could have broken even, and then another secondary down trade. And that's all it is in this price discovery mode. So we'll just see what happens tomorrow. We'll see what the pre-market activity. Again, it's going to be tricky in the morning because you're going to have to wait for that Fed announcement in the afternoon. But then there's going to be a lot of volatility based on that. But at some point, you're going to shake out here. And given all these scenarios I just described, I think something should be clear whether we're going to be breaking out up and feeling pretty confident we could be taking out this high here and therefore maybe turning this whole week around on a 3-2, 3-2 down, 2 up, reversal signal the upside, or if we're just going to fail somewhere in here, head lower, and then we have the possibility, for that monthly chart to be going back towards those lows. So let's see what happens tomorrow. Is going to be an interesting day, and maybe a day just to sit out and watch until things become really clear. But for now, we'll just, as always, just see how it opens, play that opening price bar relative to the pre-market action. That always kind of guides you, and then we'll see how the structure forms tomorrow.